"Excuse me, you always sit next to me, don't you?" I spoke to her softly, mindful of the people around us. It was the usual time on the usual subway every morning. On the first train, she would always sit next to me in my regular spot. "I'm sorry, am I bothering you?" She started to cry when I asked her. As I hurriedly apologized, she told me an unexpected story. "My name is David, 27 years old. I'm about to turn 28 soon, and for the past 4 years, my mother has always asked me if I have a girlfriend around my birthday. Tonight, as I was eating dinner after work, she asked me again, 'David, do you have a girlfriend yet? I've been asking you every year, but you've never had one. Stop making excuses about not meeting anyone and try harder.' She must have been really worried about me not having a girlfriend. Recently, she has been persuading me with a serious tone. I know, but I really haven't met anyone, and besides, I'm so into my work right now that I can't be that proactive. I believe that one day I'll meet my destined one. I should have just agreed with her, but I ended up honestly expressing my thoughts naturally. My mother didn't stay quiet. 'What are you talking about? You're not getting any younger. If you keep saying that, you'll be 40 or 50 before you know it. Get serious. I won't be around forever, you know.' Sorry. I apologized, scratching my head. I've loved reading since I was a kid and have read many kinds of novels, especially romance novels. It's kind of embarrassing for a guy to like romance novels, so when people ask about my hobbies, I just say reading broadly. I'll make a serious effort to find someone." My mother looked very satisfied with my declaration. "I'm glad. I've been nagging you for almost 4 years. I'll wait with moderate expectations so I don't get too tired out. I'll do my best." After working a bit, I went to bed early, and the next day, I took the subway to work. Since I get on at the first station, I can always get a seat, though it's not a designated spot. I always sit in my usual seat. "Darn, I'm sleepy," I mumbled to myself, feeling very tired. Work has been busy lately, and I've been taking work home. It's not just me. Everyone involved in the project is in the same situation. We all want to make something great, so no one is compromising. Though it's tough, I love and appreciate this environment where everyone shares the same passion for the work. As I was thinking about the tasks ahead at work, I heard a tapping sound. Looking up, I saw a woman walking with a white cane. I thought she would pass by, but she suddenly stopped. I couldn't help but keep my eyes on her, wondering what was happening. I watched as she gently sat down in the seat next to me. It was fine, but I wondered why she chose the seat next to mine when there were other empty seats. "This is my stop." When the announcement for my stop came, I cracked my neck. I prepared myself for the day ahead with renewed determination. As I stood up, I glanced at the woman with the white cane who was still seated. I felt it might be rude to stare, but she had a beautiful face and seemed about my age with a dignified presence. At first, she was just someone who happened to sit next to me, but she continued to sit next to me the next day and the day after that, and also the day after that. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but gradually I began to notice. The next day, when I got on the subway again, she appeared with her white cane tapping. She sat next to me again, but stumbled slightly, bumping into me. "I'm sorry," she said embarrassedly. "Oh no, it's fine. Are you okay?" When I spoke to her, she looked embarrassed. "I'm fine. I'm really sorry for stumbling." "Don't worry about it. I'm glad you're okay." After that, we didn't have any more conversation. But the next day, and the day after that, and also the day after that, she continued to sit next to me, even though there were other seats available. Why did she always choose the seat next to me? Puzzled, I decided to talk to my mother about it, as if it were just casual conversation. "Mom, there's this woman with a white cane who sits next to me on the subway every morning, even though there are plenty of empty seats." My mother looked puzzled. "That's strange. She can sit wherever she wants. But it is suspicious." Why don't you try sitting somewhere else tomorrow? Maybe I will. It's not that I mind, but I'm just curious. Yes, try sitting in a different seat and see what happens. I agreed with her suggestion and said, I'll do that. The next morning, I got on the subway as usual, but sat in a different seat. I pulled out my planner to check my schedule for the day when I heard the tapping sound again. I looked up from my planner and saw her walking towards me. She approached the seat I usually sat in and seemed about to sit down, but stopped abruptly. Then, tapping her cane again, she started walking through the subway car. She stopped right in front of where I was sitting in a different seat. Just as I suspected, she sat down next to me again. Seriously, I thought, but getting up now would seem rude, so I stayed put and continued reading my planner. When I got off at my station, I glanced at her, but she seemed unchanged. I got off the train and went about my day. What do you think is going on? You haven't done anything to her, right? After explaining the day's events to my mother when I got home, she still found it mysterious, but concluded that it must not be my fault. Of course not. I've never done anything, at least not that I can remember. Maybe she sees things differently, though. My mother agreed, seeming to understand. That's true. Even if you think you haven't done anything, it might be different from her perspective. I thought about it again, but I couldn't come up with any explanation. Maybe I'll try sitting in another seat again tomorrow. I guess I shouldn't worry about it. Sorry, I've got some work to finish up tonight, so I might be up late. Could you wake me up if I don't get up? Sure, no problem. After asking my mother, I washed the dishes, took a bath, and went to my room. I had an important meeting the next day. The company I work for, Harris Trading Company, is quite a major player among trading firms. I'm part of a project team led by our manager, James. With final adjustments and meetings, the schedule was really tight, and today had been especially busy. I hope I can get at least 3 hours of sleep, I muttered as I started working on my tasks. The last thing I remembered was, at 2 a.m., hey, wake up, it's time. David, my mother's voice somehow roused me from sleep. My alarm had apparently stopped at some point, and I was grateful to my past self for asking my mother to wake me. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I got on the subway to go to work. Usually, I'd be wide awake by the time I got moving, but today, I just couldn't wake up. This is bad, I'm so sleepy. Today, I decided to close my eyes for just a bit, and then I heard the tapping sound again. Suddenly, I felt a strong shake on my shoulder, and I woke up in a panic. Excuse me, are you okay? You usually get off at this station, right? Huh, oh yes I do. As I struggled to comprehend the situation, she spoke to me again. In front of me was the woman who always sat next to me, looking desperate. Please wake up, isn't this your stop? Oh, you're right. I need to get off. Thank you. Indeed, the doors had just opened at my usual stop. I quickly thanked her and slipped out before the doors closed. That was really close. I owe her one. As I glanced back at the subway, I saw her smile with relief. That sight gave me a strange feeling, but I started running towards my office. Your proposal is great. Please go ahead and proceed with it. Thank you. I'll do it. That way I concluded the online meeting with a firm statement, and everyone exchanged greetings before ending the call. Riv, I said as I disconnected, and cheers erupted from the people around me. That went well. As I slumped into my chair, James patted me on the shoulder. Thank you so much, David. You did a great job. Thank you for all your guidance. James stood up and thanked him, and he responded with a smile. No, it was all thanks to the hard work of you and everyone else. James is not only capable at his job, but is very respectable as a boss and simply as a person. He's always polite and pleasant, never making a face even when we ask questions. Not having to worry about the boss's mood makes it much easier for us to work. He's helped me out many times. I'm really glad you were the leader of this project. Thank you so much. Let's have a celebration with everyone. I'm happy to hear that, thanks. Many of our team members have families, so how about a lunch celebration tomorrow? Of course, right everyone? Yeah, lunch works better for me too. Thanks a lot. Thanks to you, James, I was able to go home earlier and make my wife happy. Really? That's great to hear. Make sure to take good care of your wife. Yes, thank you. We then cleaned up the conference room and left the office early. Even though it was before the end of the workday, it was a thoughtful gesture from James. I gratefully left the office and headed home. On the way, I bought a cake my mother likes. I'm home. Hearing my voice, my mother came to the entrance. She looked a bit surprised to see me. Oh, you're home early. What's the occasion? Our meeting went well, so James, our leader, let us go home early. I handed her the cake box, and she was delighted. Thank you. Let's have some tea. Go wash your hands. You know, it's a mystery how a considerate guy like you doesn't have a girlfriend. I pretended not to hear her last comment and went to wash my hands. While eating cake with my mother at the table, we talked about the woman on the subway. I'm really grateful. Who knows what would have happened if I had missed my stop. That was very kind of her. You should thank her properly if she sits next to you again tomorrow. I agreed firmly with my mother's words. I thought so too, and maybe I could also ask why she always sits next to me. The next day, as usual, I boarded the subway, and the tapping sound signaled her arrival. She sat next to me. After she sat down, I gathered my courage and spoke to her. Excuse me? Thank you for yesterday. Thanks to you, I didn't miss my stop and was able to get to work on time. When I spoke to her, she turned towards me, inside in relief. Really? That's good. I wasn't sure what to do, but you always get off at that station, and you didn't seem like you were going to stand up. I had an important meeting yesterday, so I was really busy and sleep-deprived. That must have been tough. Did the meeting go well? Yes, thanks to you. It went great. I'm really grateful. Sorry, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is David. I work at a trading company in the city. Hearing my introduction, she introduced herself as well. Oh, I'm sorry for not introducing myself earlier. I'm Emily. I'm a painter. People are often surprised that I can paint despite being blind, but I manage. Emily smiled warmly. I was just about to ask that question. People often ask, so I usually explain beforehand. It surprises everyone, as she laughed softly. I felt like I could ask her the question that had been on my mind. This might seem strange to ask, but I've been curious. Why do you always sit next to me? Is there a reason for that? Her face darkened at my question, and I panicked. His tears started to fall from her eyes. Oh, I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I didn't mean to offend you. I quickly apologized to her. Even though it was the first station, people were getting on, and those who boarded started giving me suspicious looks. Of course, they must have thought I did something to make her cry. It's okay. Really. I'm sorry. There is a reason, but it might sound silly to others. She seemed to be thinking while wiping her tears. Seeing her like that, I made a suggestion. If you don't mind, how about we meet up sometime? I'd like to give you my contact information. I gave her my phone number. She entered it into her phone. I think I've saved it correctly. Is that okay? I confirmed that the number was correct and told her it was fine. At that moment, my station arrived. Well, I need to get off here. I'll be in touch. Thank you. I'll be waiting, I said. When I got home, I told my mother about it over dinner. As expected, she scolded me. What were you thinking, making the girl cry like that? I apologized right away. She seemed to have a reason, but I couldn't really ask her on the subway, so I suggested meeting up another day. My mother seemed to understand, but was still a bit upset. That was a good decision, but make sure you properly apologize to her. Yeah, I'll make sure to apologize. I really am sorry. After dinner, I felt a bit nervous but called her. She answered after about 3 rings. Hello, this is Emily. Hi, it's David. I'm really sorry about this morning. I'm off this Saturday. Are you free then? Oh, no need to apologize. I'm free too. Where should we meet? How about the cafe near Prince Street Station? They have great scones. If we catch the 9:45 train, we'll get there just as they open. That sounds wonderful. I love scones. See you at 9:45 then. We made plans to meet on Saturday. Seeing me busy preparing in the morning, my mother smirked. Look at you, all excited. You seem to be putting in a lot of effort just to meet someone. It's nothing like that. Even if she can't see, it's important to be presentable when meeting someone. I'm off. I told my mother and left to catch the 9:45 train. On the subway, I sat in my usual seat, and soon enough, I heard the tapping sound and saw her coming. She was wearing a floral dress and looked even more adorable than usual. Good morning. Good morning. I've been looking forward to today, she said. Me too. I'm excited for today. As we chatted and laughed, the subway started moving, and after about 10 minutes, we arrived at our stop. I'm sorry. I'm not sure how to assist you properly. What should I do? I asked honestly, and Emily kindly explained what to do. Could you walk half a step ahead and let me hold onto your elbow? Got it. Like this? I walked half a step ahead and offered her my elbow. Feeling her gently place her hand on my arm, I began to walk slowly. Is this pace okay? It's perfect. Thank you. We made our way slowly towards the cafe known for its delicious scones. As we got closer, the delightful smell filled the air. It smells wonderful. It already seems delicious from the aroma, she said. Seeing her excitement made me happy too. Yes, I've been curious about this place for a while and wanted to come. When we entered the cafe, the staff cleared any unnecessary chairs to make it easier for her to navigate and led us to our table. After settling down, I opened the menu. Let me read the menu for you. I read the menu and described the various scones and drinks to her. Everything sounded delicious. I'll have the iced daring tea in a scone set, please. I'll have the hot milk tea and a chocolate scone. We placed our orders and waited for our food. This is really nice. It's a strange but wonderful coincidence that brought us together, I said. Truly a coincidence. Actually, the reason I always sat next to you is because your cologne is the same as my ex-boyfriend's. Oh, I see. Your ex-boyfriend. I wasn't born blind. I lost my sight in an accident. We were coming back from a trip when it happened. Fortunately, he was only lightly injured, but I lost my sight. Emily's story was quite shocking. She told me she was also 27 and had the accident at 18, during her last year of high school. They had both been excited about going to the same university, and the accident happened during their graduation trip. He felt a lot of responsibility for what happened. I heard him apologizing to my parents many times. It was hard for me, but my family and he supported me as I slowly tried to move forward. But I gently continued where she hesitated. Did he leave? Emily showed a sad expression. Maybe he felt too much guilt. He wrote me a letter in Braille, saying he was sorry for not being able to make me happy and for running away. At first, I felt betrayed, but when I calmed down, I realized it was understandable. An 18-year-old boy can't bear such a heavy burden. We weren't married. We were just dating. He had dreams of becoming a lawyer. If I were in his position, I might have run away too. Emily took a sip of her daring tea and smiled, saying it was delicious. I decided I had to manage my life on my own. I had to work hard and become independent. That's incredible. You turned that determination into becoming a successful artist. I tried to imagine myself in her situation, but I couldn't. If it were me, I might have stayed down forever. The thought of suddenly losing my sight was terrifying. I'd like to say I'd become mentally strong, but sitting next to someone because they wore the same cologne as my ex isn't very strong, is it? It's embarrassing to admit I can't forget someone I loved. Emily laughed. But I felt strongly that it wasn't embarrassing, and I expressed it directly. It's not embarrassing at all. Those memories must be really important to you, right? When someone means that much to you, it's not easy to forget them. Drawing on my own limited experiences with love, I spoke earnestly. Though I haven't had many relationships, I do have someone I can't forget, so please don't feel bad about those feelings. The fact that you always sit next to me because of that cologne shows how precious those memories are. You must have you really loved him? If you don't mind, can you tell me more about him? Emily looked surprised at my request. You want to hear about him? Yes, since he was someone you loved so much, he must have been an amazing person. I'd love to hear what he was like, his personality, his appearance, and any memorable stories you have, I said, understanding my intention. Emily smiled. I see. Well, he was quite charming. Are you sure you want to hear this? Her face had a mischievous and excited expression. She looked more alive than ever. Of course, please tell me, I replied. All right then, his name was Michael. He was really handsome, like a prince straight out of a love romance comic. People often said he looked like one of the idols from popular boy groups. Emily mentioned a well-known idol who was indeed very handsome. Wow, he must have been really good-looking. You have a beautiful face yourself, so I'm sure you two made a great couple. I complimented her appearance naturally. I saw her face light up with happiness. Do you really think so? Thank you, that makes me happy. We were childhood friends, lived nearby, and went to the same school from elementary to high school. Our classmates often teased us. I have liked him since elementary school, so I was happy about that. We had a close relationship, more than friends but not quite lovers, for a long time, Emily recounted. What a real-life love romance comic. I was amazed by the story of a youth I couldn't have. That's incredible. It's like a love romance comic, I exclaimed. It's like a drama. Seriously, your boyfriend was the protagonist. I bet he brought flowers on your dates and special occasions too, I said excitedly. How did you know that? He really did those things. Emily's expression turned serious. At that moment, I understood why I didn't have a girlfriend. I realized I needed to be more thoughtful and smooth like that. I mentally noted this as an area for self-improvement. It's impressive that there's a guy who can do something that cool so smoothly. I'll give it a try next time, I declared. Emily laughed at my declaration, and we continued talking while enjoying our scones and tea. She shared many memories of Michael, their fights, trips, and more. Listening to her, I found myself genuinely enjoying the stories and laughing along with her. This has been really fun. I realized I stopped talking about him over time. My friends and family avoided mentioning him, thinking it would make me sad. They were trying to be considerate of your feelings, but it's hard not to talk about someone you have so many good memories with, Emily remarked. Yes, exactly. The accident and its aftermath had turned my memories of him into something sad, but I had so many happy memories too. I'm glad I remembered those, I replied. I'm really glad you did. You have such a beautiful expression right now. Really, Emily said warmly. Then it's thanks to you, David. Thank you so much, I responded. We talked for another hour before parting ways. Seeing her so happy made me feel really good. Since then, Emily and I kept in touch regularly via text and phone calls. About 3 months later, she invited me to her art exhibition. I'm holding an exhibition. Would you like to come? She asked. I had no idea. Of course. I'll be there. I'm glad. Thank you. I'll be waiting for you, I replied. When the day came, I headed to the venue. The gallery owner, who had always been supportive, provided the space for her. After checking in, I looked for her and saw her surrounded by a group of men and women. I waited until there was a break in the crowd and then approached her. "Thank you for inviting me, Emily," I said. "Thank you for coming, David," she replied, smiling. As she walked over, I handed her a bouquet of flowers. "Congratulations, these are for you," I said. "Thank you. They smell wonderful." "I'm so happy." "Oh, would you like to see my new work?" Emily asked. "Of course." "I've been looking forward to seeing your paintings," I said. Guided by Emily, I moved towards her new piece. The painting depicted a boy and a girl in school uniforms from behind, surrounded by the 4 seasons. The depiction of the seasons was stunning, especially the cherry blossoms in spring and the autumn leaves. It was hard to believe that someone with impaired vision had painted it. "This is amazing. It's so beautiful. It really touches my heart," I said. "Are the 2 in uniforms you and Michael?" I asked. Yes, Emily nodded. "After talking with you, I remembered all the good memories I had with him and expressed the seasons we spent together: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season holds precious memories that I didn't want to forget." We looked at the painting together for a while, but then someone else called out to Emily, "I'm sorry, I need to go." "Go ahead, you must be busy." "I'll look around and head out on my own. Don't worry about me," I said. "Thank you. I'll be in touch," Emily replied. I saw Emily off and then wandered around the gallery to look at other paintings. As I thought about bringing my mother, who surprisingly likes looking at paintings, to see the gallery with me, I decided to take one last look at the new piece. But someone else was already there, a tall man wearing his hat low over his face. My heart started pounding as I quietly observed the man. Seeing him sniffle and shed tears, I was convinced and approached him. "Excuse me, are you Michael?" He turned towards me, surprised. Yes, that's me. But who are you?" he asked, confusion evident in his voice. I smiled. "My name is David. I'm a friend of Emily," though Michael looked puzzled. I continued without looking directly at him. "It's a beautiful painting, isn't it? Emily's new work," she told me. "The 2 in uniform are you and her. You 2 look perfect together." I heard him gasp. The silence stretched on, and just as I thought he wouldn't respond, he spoke in a low voice. "Perfect together? If you knew what I did to Emily, you wouldn't say that. I left her when she needed me most. The responsibility was too heavy, and it crushed me." From the corner of my eye, I saw Michael quietly crying. "Emily told me about it. She understands why you left. She believes you left because you felt too much responsibility. She thinks it was something that couldn't be helped." Maybe so, but I can't forgive myself. I've never forgotten Emily. Even after we broke up, she was always on my mind, even though I'd become a lawyer and achieved my dream. Everything feels empty without her. The deep regret on Michael's face was evident, and I decided to confront him directly. "Do you still love Emily?" "Yes, of course. I still love her. I haven't forgotten about her for a single day. She's always been the only one for me, then and now." Michael, who firmly declared this while facing me, was a truly sincere and wonderful man. Even from another guy's perspective, I'm sure they'll be okay. It just took a detour. Thinking this, I felt a pang in my chest, but chose to ignore it. At 27, I've gotten good at handling things like this. "Well, it'll be fine. Why don't you muster up the courage to talk to Emily?" As I was about to say that, the sound of a white cane tapping filled the air. I turned around slowly, and there was Emily. "Emily? Perfect timing. There's someone I'd like you to meet." Ignoring the nervous Michael, I spoke to Emily. "Someone you want me to meet." I gestured to Michael to speak up. Gathering his resolve, Michael cleared his throat and spoke. Em, how have you been? Do you recognize me?" "It's Michael." His voice trembled as he spoke, and Emily's body shook. "Michael, is it really you?" With a trembling arm, She moved her cane rapidly and walked quickly towards him. As Michael took Emily's arm and hugged her, her sobs grew louder. The scene resembled the climax of a romance novel, and my heart swelled with emotion. Not wanting to intrude on the reunion after nearly 10 years, I quietly faded out of the scene. They must have a lot to catch up on. When I got home, my mother greeted me with the same smile she had that morning. "So, how was your date? Did you have fun?" "It was great. I really believe in soulmates now." At first, my mother looked puzzled, but when I told her about Emily and Michael, she started crying. She's quite sentimental. "That's a lovely story. I hope Emily and Michael find happiness." After crying so much that she needed a towel, she showed a slightly dissatisfied face. "But you know, I have a feeling you'll still be single at 28. I could only give a wry smile at that, but I wanted her to understand this. "Don't worry. I believe my soulmate is out there too. I'll patiently wait to meet her." When I said this confidently, my mother laughed, admitting she was impressed. "Maybe you're right. I've never really believed in soulmates, but after hearing about those two, I'm starting to think they might exist." That night, I received a thank you call from Emily for reuniting them. Michael also thanked me over the phone. I didn't do much, just called out, because I thought it was time they were destined to meet again. I'm sure of it. 3 months later, I received a heartfelt thank you note and an invitation to their wedding.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." "Absolutely right." His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their inn. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.